The percolator started its slow gurgle on the back burner, and by the time it finished, breakfast was already on the table. That was the rhythm of a 1960s morning. Quick, warm, and made from whatever sat in the cupboard. A loaf of bread cost about a dime, a carton of eggs ran 53 cents, and nobody needed an hour to eat. Number 23 on this list turns a single egg and a slice of toast into something you would order at a diner. Number 18 is the one our mothers made when the coffee was still dripping and the school bus was 3 minutes out. And number 7 on this list takes day-old bread and makes it taste like a treat. These breakfasts existed for a simple reason. They fed a person fast, they cost almost nothing, and they were easy enough to fix alone, half awake before the sun was up. That part matters more than ever. So hit subscribe and put the coffee on, because here are 25 easy 5-minute breakfasts from the 1960s every senior should know. Number 25. Cinnamon toast. Few things woke up a quiet kitchen faster than the smell of butter and sugar going brown under the broiler. You started with whatever bread was on the counter, spread it thick with soft butter, then dusted it with sugar and cinnamon until the whole slice looked frosted. 3 minutes under the broiler, and the top caramelized into a thin, crackling shell. Some folks skipped the broiler and used the toaster first, then layered the butter and cinnamon sugar after, which gave you a softer bite. Either way, it cost pennies. A loaf of bread, a spoon of sugar, and the cinnamon tin that lived in every cupboard back then. It filled a child before school, and it gave an older person something warm to hold on to with morning coffee. No eggs to fry, no pan to scrub, no recipe to remember. Just the smell of cinnamon telling the house that the day had started. Number 24. The soft-boiled egg in a cup. This was breakfast served in its own little ceremony. You dropped an egg into simmering water for about 4 minutes, then set it upright in an egg cup, tapped the top with a spoon, and lifted the cap to find the yolk still loose and golden. Around it went thin strips of buttered toast, cut into what most kitchens called soldiers, ready for dipping. We ate it slow even when the morning was rushed because the egg cup made you sit down. Newspapers in the 1960s loved this one for company breakfasts, calling it tidy and proper without any of the mess of a fried plate. For an older person living alone, it was nearly perfect. 1 egg, 1 slice of bread, 1 small dish to rinse. The cup itself usually came from a wedding set or a dime store shelf, chipped at the rim and used for decades. It turned a single egg into a meal worth sitting up straight for. Number 23. Egg in a hole. This is the one that turns a single egg and a slice of toast into something you would order at a diner. The trick is a juice glass pressed into the middle of the bread to cut a neat round window. You laid the slice in a buttered skillet, cracked an egg straight into the hole, and let it fry until the white set and the yolk stayed soft. The little circle of bread you punched out went in the pan beside it, toasted golden, perfect for mopping up the yolk. Half a dozen names followed this dish around the country: toad in the hole, egg in a basket, bullseye eggs, hole in one. Every grandmother seemed to have her own word for it. The whole thing took about 5 minutes and used 1 egg and 1 slice of bread, which is exactly why it survived the lean mornings. It looked fancy on the plate and cost almost nothing, the kind of small magic a tired cook could pull off half awake. Number 22. Cream chipped beef on toast. Men who came home from the service had a blunt name for this one, but in polite kitchens it stayed SOS, and nobody asked questions. A jar of dried sliced beef sat in most pantries, cheap and shelf-stable, and that was the whole secret. You melted a little butter, stirred in flour to make a quick white gravy, then tore the beef into the pan and let the milk thicken around it. 5 minutes later, you ladled the whole creamy mess over hot toast. It was salty, filling, and it stuck to your ribs through a long morning. Carnation and other brands sold the dried beef in small glass jars, and a single jar stretched across several breakfasts. For seniors who grew up around the military or fed working husbands, this taste pulls them straight back. It was never elegant, but it was hot, it was fast, and it made plain toast feel like a real meal. Number 21. Milk toast. Gentle is the only word for it, and that was the whole point. This dish goes back generations in the colder corners of the country, places like New England where a warm, soft breakfast meant comfort on a cold floor. You toasted a slice of bread, set it in a bowl, then poured warm milk over the top until it went soft and spoonable. A little sugar, a shake of cinnamon or nutmeg, sometimes a few raisins, and that was breakfast. People reached for it when they were under the weather, when teeth were tender, or when a child needed something easy on the stomach. It asked nothing of you. No frying, no chewing through a crust, no fuss. For an older person on a quiet morning, milk toast was warmth in a bowl that took about 3 minutes to make and slid down without a fight. It was proof that the simplest food was often the kindest thing in the house. Number 20, peanut butter toast with sliced banana. Working mothers leaned on this one hard because it fed a child standing up if it had to. You toasted the bread, spread it thick with peanut butter while it was still warm so it melted into the holes, then laid slices of banana across the top in a neat row. Some kitchens drizzled a thin line of honey or a sprinkle of sugar over it. Peanut butter was a kitchen staple in the 1960s, sitting in a wide jar that never seemed to empty, and a banana cost a few cents at the corner market. The whole thing held together in one hand, which mattered when the bus was coming. For an older person now, it is just as kind. Protein from the peanut butter, soft banana that is easy to chew, and no stove involved at all. It is the rare breakfast that crossed every age in the house and never needed a recipe card to remember. Number 19, the fried egg sandwich. Quick and handheld, it was the answer when you had 2 minutes and 1 egg. You dropped a little butter in the skillet, fried an egg hard so the yolk wouldn't run, then slid it between 2 slices of toast or soft white bread. Salt, maybe a smear of mayonnaise, sometimes a slice of cheese if the icebox had it. That was the whole affair. Truck drivers ate it, factory men ate it, and plenty of kids ate it folded in a napkin on the way out the door. The beauty was how it traveled. No plate, no fork, no sitting still required. A single egg and 2 slices of bread, done in about 4 minutes, and it kept you full until the lunch whistle. For a senior cooking for one, it scales down to nothing and dirties only a pan. Plain food, honest food, the kind that never once tried to impress anybody and never had to. Number 18, instant cream of wheat. This is the one our mothers made when the coffee was still dripping and the school bus was 3 minutes out. The instant version needed nothing but hot water from the kettle stirred into the bowl, and it thickened up smooth in under a minute. A pat of margarine, a spoon of brown sugar, maybe a splash of milk to cool it down, and a child was fed and out the door. It was warm, it was filling, and it asked for almost no attention from a cook who had 4 other things going. The boxed cereal sat on the shelf right next to the oatmeal, and a single box lasted a working family the better part of a month. For an older person today, it is just as forgiving. Soft enough for tender teeth, warm enough on a cold morning, and ready faster than the coffee finishes. Sometimes the fastest breakfast in the house was also the one that felt most like being cared for. Number 17, Carnation Instant Breakfast. Carnation rolled this out in 1964 and aimed it straight at the young moderns in a hurry, the families who no longer had 20 minutes to sit at a table. You tore open a packet of powder, stirred it into a glass of cold milk, and breakfast was a drink you could finish standing at the counter. Chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry were the flavors that moved fastest. The powder carried protein, vitamins, and plenty of sugar, which the ads promised was a whole nutritious breakfast in a glass. Mothers handed it to teenagers who would not slow down and to husbands halfway out the door. For a senior who finds a heavy morning meal hard to face, the idea still holds up. It goes down easy, it takes 30 seconds, and it leaves nothing but a glass to rinse. It was the 1960s deciding that breakfast could be something you swallowed on the move, and people loved it for that. Number 16, the Brown Sugar Cinnamon Pop-Tart. Kellogg's set this loose on the country in September of 1964, and the test stores in Cleveland sold clean out almost overnight. The whole pitch was speed. You dropped the foil-wrapped pastry straight into the toaster, and a minute later out came a warm, sweet rectangle with no plate, no spoon, and no stove. Brown sugar cinnamon was a favorite from the very first batch, along with strawberry and blueberry. For a busy family, it felt like a small miracle. Breakfast that a child could fix alone before anyone else was awake. Older folks remember it as the moment breakfast stopped being something you cooked and started being something you popped down. It is not health food and nobody pretended it was. But for a quick warm bite with morning coffee, the brown sugar cinnamon one still tastes exactly like a 1960s kitchen on a school day. By the way, real quick before we get to the next one, if these old morning recipes are bringing the kitchen back to you, I put a whole collection of these vintage breakfasts together in one easy guide so you can keep them handy. You will find the link down in the description below this video. Now let's get back to the countdown. Number 15, the poached egg on toast. There was something a little proper about this one, the kind of breakfast a person made when they wanted to feel looked after. You brought a small pan of water to a gentle simmer, slipped in a cracked egg, and let it set for about 3 minutes until the white wrapped around a soft yolk. A slotted spoon lifted it onto a slice of buttered toast, and the yolk broke open the moment your fork touched it. Salt and pepper finished it. No grease, no frying, no smoke in the kitchen, which made it easy on an older stomach and easy on the pan. Cooks who fussed over a runny yolk swore by a splash of vinegar in the water to hold the egg together. It took 1 egg, 1 slice of bread, and about 5 minutes start to finish. It looked like something off a tea room menu and cost about a nickel, which was the quiet trick of so many of these mornings. Number 14, instant Quaker oatmeal. Quaker put it on the shelves in 1965, and a whole new kind of cold morning breakfast was born. The oats came pressed and pre-cooked in their own little paper envelopes, so all you did was tear one open, dump it in a bowl, and pour boiling water over the top. 30 seconds of stirring and it was thick and ready. The flavored packets soon followed, with cinnamon and brown sugar leading the pack, sweet enough that a child needed nothing added. We kept a box on the shelf right beside the regular oats, and on the busy days the instant won every time. It was warm, it filled the belly, and it cost next to nothing per bowl. For a senior on a chilly morning, it still earns its keep. Soft on the teeth, gentle on the stomach, and ready before the kettle even cools. It proved that fast and comforting were never opposites in a 1960s kitchen. Number 13, coffee and buttered toast. This was the breakfast the whole morning was built around, the one that started the moment the percolator began its slow gurgle on the back burner. By the time the coffee finished perking, 2 slices of bread had popped up, gone soft with butter, and that was the meal. No drink was sweeter to a working man than that first cup poured from the percolator, dark and a little bitter, with toast to soak up the steam. Some folks dunked the toast right into the cup. Coffee came in a big metal can back then, ground at the store, and a single can stretched across a week of mornings. For an older person, it is still the truest comfort there is. Warm, simple, and tied to 50 years of mornings that all began the same way. Sometimes breakfast was nothing more than the coffee and the bread, and somehow that was always enough. Number 12, plain scrambled eggs. By the 1960s, this was the everyday answer when a stomach needed something more than toast, and there was no time for fuss. You cracked 2 eggs into a bowl, beat them with a fork until the yolks broke loose, then poured them into a buttered skillet over low heat. A few slow turns with a spoon, and they came up soft and yellow in about 3 minutes. Some cooks splashed in a little milk to stretch the eggs and keep them tender, a habit carried over from leaner years when 2 eggs had to feed more than one mouth. A carton ran around 50 cents back then, so a scramble cost almost nothing per plate. For an older person, it is still one of the kindest breakfasts going. Soft on the teeth, warm, full of protein, and forgiving if you walk away from the stove for a second. Scoop it onto a slice of toast, and you have a hot meal that asks for 1 bowl, 1 pan, and barely any standing time at all. Number 11, a bowl of buttered grits. Down south, this was the bottom of the plate, the warm base that everything else leaned against, and by the 1960s, a quick version made it a true 5-minute breakfast. Think of the widow cooking for one in a kitchen that had gone quiet, the kind of morning where a full spread felt like too much trouble for a single chair at the table. She set a small pot of water on to boil, rained in a half cup of quick grits, and stirred while they thickened into something soft and steady. Quaker filed the patent for instant grits in 1967, the kind you fixed by stirring warm water right into the bowl, and that put a hot Southern breakfast within reach of anyone with a kettle. But even the stovetop quick grits took only a few minutes. In went a knob of butter, a little salt, and that was the whole dish. No teeth required, no chewing through a crust, nothing that fought back on a tender morning. For the night shift worker coming home as the sun came up, grits were the meal that met you at any hour, hot and undemanding. For the grandmother who had cooked for a houseful and now cooked for herself, it kept the old ritual alive without the old labor. Some stirred in a spoon of sugar and ate them sweet like cereal. Others cracked an egg over the top and let the yolk run down through the white grain. The grits did not care which way you went. They cost pennies a bowl, sat warm in the belly for hours, and tasted like every quiet Southern kitchen that ever was. For a great many seniors today, a bowl of buttered grits is not really about the corn at all. It is about being back at a table that once was full, holding a warm bowl in two hands, and feeling for a moment like somebody still cooked for them. Number 10, a glass of Tang and a slice of toast. Nothing tasted more like the space age than that bright orange powder stirred into a glass of cold water. Tang first hit the shelves in 1959, but it was John Glenn carrying it on his Mercury flight in 1962 that turned it into a sensation. Suddenly the kids wanted what the astronauts drank. You spooned the powder into water, gave it a quick stir, and you had a tart, sweet glass of orange in seconds, no squeezing and no pulp. Pair it with a slice of buttered toast, and a child was fed and gone before the bus came. It was never real orange juice, and the ads leaned hard on the vitamin C to make it sound healthy. But it was cheap, it kept forever in the cupboard, and a single jar lasted a family weeks. For an older person now, it is a fast jolt of something sweet and bright on a slow morning. The orange in the glass and the warm bread on the plate were the whole breakfast, and for a 1960s kitchen, that felt downright modern. Number 9, Nabisco shredded wheat biscuits. These big pillowy bricks of woven wheat were already old friends by the 1960s, sitting in the cupboard with nothing added and nothing taken away. The old-fashioned way had a little ritual to it. You set 2 biscuits in a bowl, poured hot water over them to soften the wheat, then drained it off before the milk and sugar went on. Plenty of folks skipped that step and just splashed on cold milk, watching the biscuit drink it up and go tender. Either way, you were eating in under a minute. There was no sugar coating and no fuss, just plain wheat that filled you up, which is exactly why grandparents swore by it. A box cost very little. For a senior today, it still earns a spot on the shelf, gentle on the stomach, and soft once the milk soaks in. It never once needed a cartoon on the box to sell it. Number 8, graham crackers crumbled in milk. This one barely counts as cooking, and that was the whole charm of it. Back in the 1950s and on through the 1960s, graham crackers in milk was a common budget breakfast, sitting alongside shredded wheat and corn flakes as the plain, low-sugar way to start the day. You broke a few crackers into a bowl, poured cold milk over them, and let them sit just long enough to go soft like a homemade cereal. A sprinkle of sugar or a little cinnamon on top made it feel like a treat. The honey brown crackers came in a long, waxed sleeve and cost next to nothing. For an older person, it is about as easy as a breakfast gets. No stove, no toaster, no chewing through anything hard once the milk does its work. It was the sort of thing a tired body still reaches for on a morning when even toast feels like too much. Number 7, French toast, the one that takes day-old bread and makes it taste like a treat. This was the trick every thrifty kitchen knew, a way to rescue slices that had gone stiff in the bag instead of throwing them out. The dish is ancient. The old French called it pain perdu, which means lost bread, born from the simple refusal to waste a loaf. You beat an egg with a little milk in a shallow dish, dropped the stale slices in to soak up the custard, then laid them in a buttered skillet until both sides went golden and the middle turned soft again. A dusting of sugar or a pour of syrup finished it. The staler the bread, the better it drank up the egg, which is why yesterday's loaf made the best breakfast in the house. 3 or 4 minutes in the pan and a forgotten heel of bread came back to the table looking like something special. For a senior cooking for one, it stretches a single egg and the end of a loaf into a warm, sweet plate. It was poverty turned into pleasure, and nobody at the table ever guessed the bread had been on its way to the bin. Number 6. A mug of hot cocoa and buttered toast. On a cold morning, this was warmth you could wrap your hands around. The cocoa came from a tin of powder, Hershey's or Nestlé's, spooned into a mug with a little sugar and topped off with hot milk straight from the pan. A quick stir, and the steam rose up sweet and chocolatey, the kind of smell that pulled a child out of bed faster than any alarm. Alongside it went a slice or two of toast, buttered while it was hot so it soaked right in, ready for dunking. Some kitchens dropped a few marshmallows on top if they had a bag in the cupboard. It was a breakfast built for chilly school mornings, when a hot drink did as much to warm a body as anything on a plate. A tin of cocoa lasted a whole winter and cost very little. For an older person now, it is pure comfort, soft toast, and a warm, sweet mug that asks for nothing but a pan of milk and 3 minutes at the stove. Sometimes the warmth itself was the meal. Number 5. A bowl of cream of rice. This was the gentlest hot cereal in the cupboard, smoother even than the wheat kind, made from finely ground rice that cooked up pale and silky. Mothers reached for it when a stomach was off, when teeth were tender, or when a small child needed something easy. You stirred the granules into boiling water or hot milk and it thickened in about a minute or two into a soft, mild porridge with no lumps and no fight. A spoon of sugar, a little butter, maybe a splash of milk to cool it down, and breakfast was ready before the coffee finished. It carried no strong flavor of its own, which is exactly why it suited a queasy morning or a fussy eater. The box sat right beside the cream of wheat and cost about the same. For an older person today, it is one of the kindest things in the pantry. Warm, smooth, easy to swallow, and ready in the time it takes to butter a piece of toast. It was the breakfast you made when you wanted to feel looked after. Number 4. Honey drizzled over warm toast. Simpler than this it does not get, and yet a slice done right could feel like a small luxury. You toasted the bread, buttered it while it was still hot, then ran a slow line of honey back and forth until it pooled and melted into the butter. The warmth thinned the honey so it soaked into the bread instead of sitting on top. A jar of honey lived in nearly every kitchen, sometimes gone solid and grainy at the bottom, and a little went a long way. Some folks added a shake of cinnamon over the top for a sweeter bite. It was the breakfast for a morning when there was nothing else in the house, just bread, butter, and the honey jar, and somehow it always satisfied. For an older person, it is soft, sweet, and gentle on the teeth, ready in the 2 minutes the toaster takes. It cost almost nothing and asked for no skill at all. Plain bread and honey, the kind of quiet pleasure that never went out of style. Number 3. A leftover biscuit split open with jam. In a southern kitchen, there were almost always a few biscuits left from last night's supper sitting under a cloth on the counter, and morning was when they earned their second life. You split the biscuit in two, warmed the halves in the oven or a hot skillet for a minute, then spread them thick with butter and whatever jam or preserves the pantry held. Blackberry, fig, peach, or grape jelly, whatever had been put up that summer. The cold biscuit came back soft and flaky with a quick warming, and the jam soaked into all the little holes. It was thrift at its finest. Last night's bread turned into this morning's treat with no baking at all. A jar of homemade preserves cost only the fruit and the work. For an older person, it is a way to use up what is already in the house and call it breakfast. Warm biscuit, sweet jam, hot coffee on the side, and a morning that began with something made by hand long before. Number 2, sliced banana with cream. This was breakfast for the mornings when even the toaster felt like too much. You peeled a ripe banana, sliced it into a bowl, and poured cold milk or a little cream over the top, then dusted it with sugar if you wanted it sweet. That was the entire job. Bananas were cheap and always on the counter back then, going soft in the bowl until somebody used them up. The cream softened the fruit and turned it into something you could eat with a spoon, no chewing and no cooking at all. For an older person, it could not be gentler, easy on the teeth and easy on the stomach. ready in under a minute. It was the breakfast a tired body reached for when it wanted something cool and sweet instead of hot and heavy. Just fruit, milk, and a spoon. Number 1. A bowl of cornflakes with cold milk. Of all the fast breakfasts of the 1960s, none was more common than this one. The bowl that sat on a million kitchen tables every single morning. You shook the flakes from the box, poured cold milk over the top, spooned on a little sugar, and breakfast took all of 30 seconds. Kellogg's box with the rooster was a fixture in every cupboard, and the flakes stayed crisp just long enough to eat before they went soft at the bottom. Some folks sliced a banana over the top or dropped in a handful of raisins. Most just ate them plain. It was the breakfast a busy mother trusted to feed the table while she packed lunches. A single box stretched across a week of mornings. For an older person today, it is still the easy fallback. No stove, no skill, nothing to scrub but a bowl and a spoon. It was the plainest breakfast in America, and for millions of mornings, it was exactly enough. Milk toast is also pretty much exactly what you think it is. Back in the old days, it was so much more common for people to take an intentionally frugal approach to how they spent their food, and especially the kind of hacks, snacks, and dishes they would come up with. All of these ideas were centered around being able to make the most using the least amount of time, energy, and ingredients possible. Milk toast is one of the best examples of that because imagine if you tried to make the most out of some milk or some bread before it was about to hit those pearly gates and become fully expired. Yeah? You can't really figure out what to do because while you'd normally just eat them on their own separately, this time that doesn't work. You just go ahead and get milk toast ready. The best part is that it works in 3 different ways. You get a nice healthy meal that's a pretty good breakfast or an interlude meal before your next big meal. You get to save money because you're not letting anything go to waste, nor are you buying something new because these ingredients are probably on their last legs, and you get a pretty lovely dessert out of it too. What's not to like, really? It's kind of insane how convenient milk toast can really be. Moving away from the sweets, sadly, and moving towards the greens. And by greens, I literally mean grass green. When times were hard, people needed to find resourceful ways to maintain a somewhat healthy diet. And that's what they did. Forget your local Trader Joe or Whole Foods and take a peek outside of your house or apartment building. What do you see? Just grass and weeds, right? Wrong! Those aren't just grass and weeds. That is your breakfast right there. During the Great Depression, people took locally sourced to a whole new level. Those pesky weeds you hate so much? That was the breakfast of our ancestors. Dandelion greens, though a bit bitter as far as I've heard, were packed with vitamins and minerals, and most important of all, they were free. People would pluck them straight from their yards, or a neighbor's yard if they weren't looking, and sauté them in a bit of bacon grease or whatever fat was available. The bitterness of the greens was tamed by scrambling them together with eggs, which added much-needed protein to the mix. I know some of you are already typing those angry comments like, they were so poor that they had to eat grass, but they somehow had eggs? And to that, I have to say, no. They most likely didn't have money for eggs, but a lot of people had their own chickens or knew somebody who did. And in tough times, people wanted to help each other as much as they could. Spam rose to prominence during World War II, appreciated for its convenience and shelf life, and it continued to be a staple in American households thereafter. It was marketed as a versatile ingredient suitable for a variety of dishes, appealing to families looking for quick, budget-friendly meal options. Hormel Foods, the maker of Spam, responded to changing culinary preferences by introducing new flavors and varieties, aiming to reinvigorate the brand's appeal amid shifting consumer tastes that favored fresher, less processed food options. These efforts included targeted marketing campaigns that emphasized Spam's versatility in modern home cooking, showcasing its ability to adapt to current trends while maintaining its core identity as a convenient and reliable food product. I think the most intimate food experience for anyone from the South is easily just hominy grits. Like, these are definitely a Southern ride or die as far as breakfast is considered. Creamy, loaded with corn and customizable in about 1,000 different ways, there's a lot that hominy grits bring to the table that other dishes just don't seem to compare to. And that too on a budget. They're made from hominy, which is essentially just dried corn that's been treated with an alkaline solution and then grounded into coarse grits. And when cooked slowly with water, milk, and broth, they actually turn into this incredibly thick, fantastic porridge that's worth its weight in gold. What makes hominy grits really stand out is their sheer versatility, though. I mean, the possibilities are quite literally endless. You can go the savory route or the super sweet route, and all you have to do is just add a bit more of whatever spices, seasonings, and herbs you're working with. Hominy grits are so effective largely because they were a Native American creation. The tribes were making hominy a long time before any Europeans set foot on American soil, and they helped to popularize the tradition, which is how it turned into a go-to for Southern kitchens by the 19th century. Since I can't stop thinking about sweets, let's circle back to them for a bit. Applesauce bread. Applesauce bread was one of those sweet, comforting recipes that made a comeback in the Great Depression when butter, sugar, and milk were hard to come by. Applesauce was cheap, easy to make, and could substitute for many of the pricier ingredients in baking. Applesauce added moisture and sweetness to bread without needing lots of sugar, butter, or oil. Pretty much all the good stuff that people didn't have access to. You'd mix it with flour, baking soda, and whatever spices were around. Cinnamon was the best, but you had to be lucky. This was the perfect recipe to create a dense, cake-like bread that was perfect for breakfast or dessert. And let's not forget the applesauce itself. It was a hero in its own right. People made it from leftover or bruised apples that would have otherwise gone to waste. So, not only was applesauce bread thrifty, but it was also the original waste-free, eco-friendly breakfast. Plus, it could be easily customized with nuts, raisins, or anything else you had on hand to make it stretch further. In a time when dessert was a rare treat, applesauce bread brought a little sweetness into some pretty tough days. Fruit cocktail in heavy syrup was a beloved component of breakfast and dessert menus, particularly during the 1970s. This mix of diced peaches, pears, grapes, pineapple, and cherries, all preserved in thick syrup, was a convenient and tasty addition to many meals. Del Monte and Libby's were leading brands, heavily marketing the product's ease of use and the sweet indulgence it offered. The syrup's rich flavor enhanced the appeal, making the fruit cocktail a quick solution for a sweet serving. In a time when convenience often trumped other considerations, this product stood out for its ability to deliver a variety of fruits in one easy package. Despite shifts in consumer preferences, it remained a practical and appealing choice for those looking for quick fruit options. Tallow fried potatoes are the OG French fries. They're insanely flavorful. They have that beautiful golden sheen to them, and they're about as crispy as you would want the perfect batch of French fries to be. A lot of that color, vividness, and flavor comes from the fact that they're fried in rendered beef fat instead of vegetable oil. Now, back in the day, and I mean way before the 80s, fast food joints like McDonald's were actually using beef tallow in their fries as well. That was a big part of what gave them that original iconic flavor. Tallow helps potatoes achieve a savory flavor that they would never be able to get to on their own. Plus, this just isn't there today with the modern oils we have. The best part really was the exterior, because a simple first bite was about as close to nirvana as you could get. If you were eating these when you were borderline starving, then you were pretty much about to have the best food experience of your life. Tallow was the go-to frying fat for a lot of American diners and fast food kitchens, and it's just not hard to see why. As I mentioned before, eggs were hard to come by in those times, and it showed. Food didn't contain enough protein, and it was hard to maintain energy levels throughout the day. Now, I know eggless waffles might sound like an oxymoron, but during the Great Depression, you had to get creative. The secret? People started using a mix of flour, baking powder, and any liquid that was available, milk if you were living on a higher leg, and water if you were not. This created a batter that cooked up into crispy waffles. The texture wasn't quite as fluffy as regular waffles, but they were still delicious and could be topped with syrup, butter, or even some homemade jam if you had it. Eggless waffles became a symbol of resourcefulness and showed that you didn't need fancy ingredients to make something tasty. These waffles were the perfect balance of crunchy and chewy, proving that breakfast could still feel special, even when the cupboards were practically bare.
Blast off with Tang. Launched by General Foods in 1959, this vibrant drink rocketed into popularity by becoming the beverage of choice for astronauts during the 1960s space race. This stellar connection provided Tang with an unbeatable marketing boost, aligning it with innovation and adventure. With a lineup of flavors like orange, grape, and tropical punch, orange soared as the fan favorite, beloved for its vivid color and zesty taste. Tang's ads frequently featured space missions, solidifying its image as the futuristic drink of choice. Originally designed as a vitamin-enriched drink for convenience, Tang later shifted its marketing towards health-focused themes to keep up with changing consumer preferences about natural ingredients and sugar content.
Lard biscuits are pretty much the heroes of old-school baking. If you actually look at it from a historical lens, these unapologetically flavorful biscuits have kept way more bellies full than something like turnips. No, but really, lard biscuits have been a generational safety net for when a hunger pang is about to turn a bad day into a bad week. Lard biscuits were the go-to in Southern kitchens for the longest time, even before butter became a staple ingredient in the area. Folks would keep tins of drippings on the stove, but most of the lard was preserved, not because people had to ration it or because they were running awfully short, but because they just liked it that much. Lard biscuits are something you don't see around anymore, but during several of the past few centuries, as well as notable periods like the Great Depression and the World Wars, lard biscuits were man's best friends. I have quite a sweet tooth today, and I wish I could say that's because that time of the month is approaching. But, oh well, no excuses for me. Coming in on number 3, we have peanut butter muffins. This probably sounds familiar, and that is because you've most likely heard every health-oriented TikToker or Instagram influencer mention it at least once. It is quite popular in today's day and age, and not for bad reasons. But during the Great Depression, they weren't as luxurious as they are today. Quite the contrary, they were literal lifesavers. Peanut butter was cheap, packed with protein, and easy to store, making it a go-to ingredient for stretching meals. The muffins were a genius creation, made from simple pantry staples like flour, sugar, and a big scoop of peanut butter. They didn't need eggs or butter, which were often hard to come by, and they baked up into a hearty, slightly crumbly treat that filled you up for hours. The peanut butter provided a rich, nutty flavor, and you could eat them for breakfast, lunch, or as a snack, midday or midnight. They weren't just about the taste. They were supposed to give you strength for the day, and that's exactly what they did. They were a practical, budget-friendly way to get in as much protein as possible when times were tough. And come on, who doesn't love peanut butter in any way, shape, or form?
Remember Quisp cereal? Launched by Quaker Oats in 1965, this cereal brought a whole new level of fun to the breakfast table with its alien mascot and saucer-shaped pieces. It quickly won over children with its sugary flavor and captivating animated commercials that made breakfast fun. The cereal's unique branding and playful design were key differentiators in a crowded market. Despite its initial success, the shift towards healthier breakfast options posed challenges for Quisp, leading to its eventual status as a nostalgic item brought back periodically to appeal to adults who had grown up with it. This strategic shift in marketing to tap into nostalgia, combined with occasional updates to its formula, allowed Quisp to maintain interest among former fans while navigating the complexities of modern cereal markets.
Vinegar pie for breakfast is something that really just doesn't even sound like a real meal. It honestly sounds like some kind of prank, but no. This is a very real dish, and it actually works in more ways than one. For starters, this doesn't really taste the way you think it would. I know you're imagining some really bitter, acidic notes from the vinegar, but the initial flavor beats are sweet tart, and they give off a very custardy vibe. It's a bit like a lemon chess pie, but just made with your typical pantry staples instead this time. The vinegar is the star of the show, as it should be, and it cuts through almost every other flavor present in the pie, but not to the point where you would think all you can taste here is just vinegar. It's rich, It has this tangy brightness that actually is very stimulating for your taste buds, and if you pair it up with some hot coffee, then it works as well as Bruno Mars does with Anderson .Paak. Vinegar pie is something that strangely, despite being a pretty innovative and flavorful hit, is something that would be called a desperation pie because it's something that was made mostly by the women of the South and the Midwest living in rural populations. Fried oatmeal patties might not sound so glamorous, but when you were trying to make the most out of the little you had, they were a treat. This Depression-era breakfast was a clever way to use up leftover oatmeal, which was already a cheap and filling staple. Instead of just reheating plain old porridge, people would mix the cold oatmeal with a little flour or cornmeal, form it into patties, and fry it up in a pan. I don't know how I didn't think of this. It's genius. The amount of leftover oatmeal I could have saved, please don't call the Eco Patrol on me. I never know how much is too much. The result of this creative endeavor was crispy on the outside and soft on the inside patties. They could be eaten plain or topped with a little butter or syrup if you had it. And like most of these dishes, they were versatile. They could be savory or sweet, depending on your cravings and your abilities at the given moment. Fried oatmeal patties were a simple but satisfying way to stretch leftovers into another meal. And let's be honest, anything fried tends to taste better. Do I need to reference again the Kentucky Fried Chicken? I don't think so. Fried oatmeal patties were a great way to turn mushy old oatmeal into something you'll look forward to eating.
Curious how Jiffy Pop pancakes made morning meals a breeze with their just add water mix during the hectic 70s. This convenience resonated deeply with the 1970s households, streamlining the morning routine remarkably. The product's simplicity allowed anyone to quickly whip up pancakes, making it a popular choice among families with busy schedules. Jiffy Pop's marketing cleverly focused on these time-saving aspects, often showcasing family breakfasts that were both delicious and hassle-free. The mix was versatile, catering to various taste preferences with different flavors. While Jiffy Pop pancakes enjoyed popularity due to their convenience and taste, the evolving breakfast market eventually led to reduced visibility and presence, as newer breakfast options continued to diversify.
Hot water fried cornmeal cakes are an old-school Southern staple that don't really get even half the love and attention they should these days. I just want you to visualize a crispy, golden brown cornmeal cake with the most incandescent exterior you've ever seen, and then a tender, soft center that just leaves you wanting more and more. But it's natural, and even good, to get curious. And when you hear hot water fried anything, your first instinct is to immediately go like, wait, what? And I really wouldn't blame you. The practice of making cornmeal cakes this way is something that actually goes back several centuries, right back to the enslaved African Americans in the South who were making the first versions of these. Without access to proper feed, not even leavening, they found a way to make do with just cornmeal and water, and these were also known by a much more popular name, hoe cakes. Now, in the end, they started to fall out of everyone's go-to cooking preferences, but I think cornmeal cakes have one more comeback in them, despite it all. Coffee soup, the liquid breakfast of the hard times. Coffee soup was one of the more unconventional Depression-era breakfasts, but it made sense when you think about the times. Coffee was cheap, which might come as a shocker since it is so expensive now. It was also widely available, so when families didn't have much to eat, they turned it into a meal. The recipe was dead simple. Pour a cup of strong, hot coffee over a slice of day-old bread or crackers, and there you have it, breakfast. Sometimes sugar or milk would be added if they were available, but more often than not, it was just coffee and bread. This was a quick and easy way to stretch a little coffee into something that felt a lot more filling than it looked. Coffee soup wasn't exactly gourmet, but it gave people the energy boost they needed to start their day, and it was a comforting routine when other breakfast options were out of reach. The bitter taste of coffee combined with the soft bread created a unique flavor that grew on you after a while. I am a coffee addict as much as the next person, maybe even more, but this may be the tipping point for me. But I guess it's kind of like a tiramisu, only without the cream filling, right? Maybe I would try it. God only knows it can never be too much coffee.
Chipped beef on toast, Affectionately known as SOS, is a dish rooted in military history, featuring dried beef in a creamy sauce over toast. Simple and cost-effective, it became a staple in U.S. military mess halls for its quick assembly and satisfying nature. This dish's straightforward preparation, combining a roux-based sauce with rehydrated beef slices, made it a popular choice in civilian kitchens, especially among families with military backgrounds. Variations included substituting dried beef with ground beef or sausage and biscuits instead of toast, catering to different tastes. The dish was valued for its hearty quality and versatility, fitting well into the culinary routines of many American households due to its ease of preparation and comforting nature.
Bread scramble is pretty much one of those moments of sheer creativity, resourcefulness, and making the most out of things that just would never go together if you were adhering to common sense. It's a throw-together breakfast if I've ever seen one. I mean, you would honestly be hard-pressed to not call this survivalist cooking. It's exactly what you might think it is, too. Torn up pieces of bread that's either a day old at best or several at worst tossed up into a hot skillet. Add some butter and bacon grease, then scramble it up to high heaven with some eggs. People would typically add whatever scraps they could to make the meal stand out a bit more. They'd add leftover ham, onions, and different kinds of herbs, and flavor-wise, just think of it like a bread-based omelet. It actually soaks up a lot of the eggs and fat, so it's definitely a lot more flavorful than you would expect, and it gets the job done well enough from what is essentially a very impromptu breakfast. Probably end up with a nasty case of heartburn if you use this recipe regularly, though. There was something back then that is clearly lacking today, and that's a sense of community. But that's a topic for a different video. To get back to the dandelion greens with eggs, this wasn't a fancy meal worthy of a restaurant, but it was nutritious and cost, well, basically nothing, which was the two most important facts to put into consideration back then. Plus, there was something satisfying about eating a pest for breakfast. While we are talking about eggs, let's not forget to mention scrambled eggs with breadcrumbs, the ultimate egg stretcher. When you've only got a few eggs but a lot of mouths to feed, you start getting creative. It sounds humble, and it was, but it was also an ingenious way to stretch a couple of eggs into a meal for the whole family. Breadcrumbs, often made from the stale bread sitting around, were mixed into the eggs to bulk them up and make the dish more filling. Sometimes people would even fry the breadcrumbs first to add a bit of crunch. In the Depression era, nothing went to waste, even breadcrumbs. Adding breadcrumbs to eggs wasn't just a cost-cutting trick. It was also a way to make sure everyone got a portion, no matter how little you had to work with. It's nothing revolutionary, and personally, I think it has nothing on the dandelion green eggs, but it was a way to make the bellies stop gurgling.
Introduced in 1964 by Carnation, this wasn't just your average breakfast, it was breakfast on the go. Available in tasty flavors like chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, chocolate being the preferred choice, it promised the nutrition of a complete meal. The drink became a morning staple due to its convenience and nutritional content, highlighted in campaigns that emphasized its health benefits. Over the years, as consumer tastes evolved, Carnation adapted its formula to include lower sugar and higher protein versions, meeting the newer nutritional expectations without compromising on the quick, delicious start that families had come to rely on.
Let's talk Cracklin cornbread. This is the cornbread that absolutely doesn't mess around. Like, this is the supersonic of cornbread. This is that rugged, crispy-edged cousin of your typical cornbread muffin, and it brings with it all the rustic charm that cornbread is always known for. Cracklin cornbread has always come from the innovative kitchens of the working class, and this is especially true in the South, where using anything less than all of the hog was considered culinary blasphemy. Wasting fat? You may as well hang up your butcher knife. It was about no waste, and Cracklins were a prime example of why that mentality worked. These were gold, and stirring them into cornbread only made them shine brighter. It made the bread a lot more filling and gave it extra protein, and you needed that because if you were coming back from a day of shoveling mud, then you definitely needed something for those muscles. It was a proper lunch though, and it was even better with some fresh greens on the side. Cracklin cornbread is something that pretty much has faded into the background nowadays, but it was the perfect kind of thing for when you had nothing but a skillet, an empty stomach, and a lot of grit and determination to make something worth eating. It's a 10 out of 10 for a lot of Southerners, and nothing's really changing that. Staying on the sweet side of things, we'll be talking about the ultimate zero-waste recipe, banana bread. Back then, letting food go to waste was practically a crime against humanity, and banana bread was the best solution for those overripe bananas to be saved. Instead of tossing them, creative cooks found a delicious way to use them up. They mixed them with flour, sugar, and a bit of baking soda, and created a nice, dense loaf of heaven. Eggs and butter were optional, and people often replaced them with whatever fat they had lying around. The natural sweetness of bananas made it a budget-friendly alternative to other desserts. Plus, banana bread was highly versatile. You could throw in nuts, raisins, cinnamon, or whatever odds and ends you could scrape up to stretch it even further. Banana bread was one of those Depression-era foods that stuck around to this day, and it's for good reasons. It is the epitome of a sweet, delicious, but healthy treat that has got everyone in a chokehold. It is healthy and packed with nutrients, while still remaining tasteful and filling. No wonder all those cooking influencers are making banana bread every other day. Gee, show us another recipe.
Eggs in a nest, also known as eggs in a frame, brought a playful twist to traditional breakfast eggs by frying them inside a hole cut from a slice of bread. This simple yet delightful dish allowed for creativity and personalization during preparation, making breakfast an engaging meal. It was particularly popular for its ease of preparation and the joy it brought to the breakfast table, allowing for variations such as different bread types or added toppings like cheese or herbs. The interactive cooking process, cutting the bread and watching the egg cook perfectly in the middle, was a key appeal, making it a favorite among families. This dish stood out for its simplicity and the fun it added to cooking, making it a go-to choice for a quick and enjoyable breakfast.
You ever have leftovers but you don't want to make what you had last night? If your leftovers happen to be potatoes, mashed or otherwise, then potato cakes are your hero for today's Saturday dinner. Potato cakes are the ultimate leftover glow-up, and they're a fine example of how putting a little bit of faith, time, and creativity into what you think is nothing that special can actually result in a killer dish. Potato cakes are made from mashed potatoes that have been mixed with a generous bit of flour, egg, and then shaped into patties until they're golden brown. Just think of them like hash browns, or at least like a distant but more nostalgic and comfier cousin of hash browns. The flavor is what you would expect, but it's honestly more buttery than you would think too. You're really going to have the time of your life if your original mashed potatoes that are left over were made with cream or garlic mixed in, but even if they weren't, that's always a step you can add later. Potato cakes were the gift of several immigrant communities that were putting down roots during the 1800s and 1900s. This is a dish that's been shared among Irish, German, and Polish families, so everybody has their own take on it, and I know boxed mashed potatoes and freezer meals are what everyone goes for today. But this still beats all of that. Moving on to something less fun, egg and potato hash. Egg and potato hash was the ultimate Depression-era breakfast because it was cheap, filling, and easy to throw together. Potatoes, one of the most budget-friendly foods around, were diced and fried until crispy, then mixed with scrambled eggs. If you were lucky, you might throw in a little onion or whatever leftovers were kicking around. Bits of ham, maybe even a stray vegetable. The beauty of this dish was that you could stretch it as far as you needed. Not enough eggs? No problem, just add more potatoes. The fried potatoes added that crispy texture, while the eggs brought in some much-needed protein to keep you going through the day. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was warm and hearty, plus it kept everyone fed and happy. Egg and potato hash was the kind of meal that stuck to your ribs and could easily turn a couple of basic items into a satisfying breakfast that made you feel like you weren't missing out, even during tough times.
Ever wonder why corned beef hash became such a breakfast staple, especially during the bustling post-war era? It combined diced corned beef, potatoes, and spices, all canned for convenience. Typically served with eggs or toast, This meal option was a quick, hearty solution for families on the go. Promoted by brands like Hormel and Libby's, its marketing highlighted the ease of preparation and robust flavor, appealing to those with limited time for cooking. These advertising efforts often portrayed corned beef hash as the hero of the busy morning, saving time without sacrificing taste. The product maximized American values of efficiency and practicality, fitting perfectly into the fast-paced lifestyle of its consumers. It continued to be recognized for its convenience and satisfying taste.
So we're going to start our list off with a classic that everyone's familiar with: stale bread pancakes, and you might be surprised how people made pancakes out of bread, but it's an interesting little process that'll show you just how resourceful we really could be. They're also surprisingly tasty, and the idea here is to soak slices or cube-sized chunks of stale bread in milk, and when even that's not available, water, then mash it up with eggs. You need a little bit of flour for this to work, and whatever extra flair you want to add to it is your own preference. Personally, I always go for some honey. These pancakes are something that isn't just exclusive to American tables either. They're a tradition that stretches from so many different cultures across the world that it's simply just a grandpa meal now. Plus, flavor-wise, these go with any kind of game plan. You can sprinkle some cheese, throw in different kinds of herbs like parsley and oregano for a more aromatic pancake, or go savory with salt and pepper. Everything works, and they're awfully cheap, so why not? Spoon bread was one of the Depression-era foods that took humble ingredients and transformed them into something magical. It's like cornbread, but with a soft, custard-like texture that you literally scoop out with a spoon, hence the name. Spoon bread was like cornbread's creamy, comforting cousin. It was made from pantry staples like cornmeal, milk, and a little butter. Spoon bread was a dish that delivered big on comfort despite being simple and cheap. It was baked until golden on top but still creamy inside, almost like a cross between pudding and bread. The beauty of spoon bread is that it didn't take much for it to be absolutely delicious. No toppings, no spices, nothing of that sort. You could enjoy it plain or add a bit of cheese, sugar, or even that leftover bell pepper hiding away in the pantry. It was great for breakfast, a side dish for dinner, or even as a dessert with a drizzle of honey. In tough times, spoon bread was the perfect way to make a little cornmeal go a long way. And anyway, any food you can eat with a spoon has a cozy vibe to it, doesn't it?
TV brand frozen breakfasts offered a comprehensive, ready-to-eat meal solution that included sausages, eggs, pancakes, and hash browns, simplifying the morning routine for many American families. Introduced in the 1970s, these breakfasts catered to the need for convenience and variety, allowing families to enjoy a hearty meal without extensive preparation. The marketing of these products highlighted their quick and easy preparation, appealing particularly to those with hectic morning schedules. The assortment within each package made these breakfasts highly appealing, as they catered to various preferences within a family, all from a single, easy-to-prepare kit. This product line was well received for providing a diverse and satisfying breakfast experience that could be enjoyed by everyone at the table.
Honestly, the fact that nobody is talking about how good molasses toast is these days is certifiably criminal behavior. I just want you to picture hot toast, and I mean real, genuine bread, not packaged, factory-made fluff, but actual freshly baked bread with deep, dark molasses. Not the generic stuff you find in marts and stores nowadays, but actual molasses. Blackstrap, bitter, smoky, sweet, and punchy. This is something brown sugar wishes it could be. Molasses toast is something that was definitely the moment back when it was popular, and those were times when you would consider sugar a luxury. Most folks tried to get it on everything they possibly could, whether that was biscuits, cornbread, hot milk, pies, or toast. The first person to put that stuff on toast hit a gold mine, and everybody copied the blueprint afterwards. The toast was absolutely the move, and butter melting with the molasses created this perfect harmony of sweetness. The bread was the perfect stage for that, and if you had it today, you'd feel like you're going back through time to a farmhouse kitchen in the 40s. You can eat this toast as it is or mix it up with some honey and nuts if you really feel like bringing out your inner chef. Some people also double down on the sugar rush by adding cinnamon and vanilla extract. One of the most popular breakfasts of the time was Depression Donuts. Forget your regular Krispy Kreme order and start writing this down. Depression Donuts were all about survival since people back then weren't really rolling in dough, pun intended. But with minimal ingredients like flour, water, baking powder, and maybe a spoonful of sugar, these donuts became like a gift sent from above. Since eggs, butter, and milk were often scarce or expensive, people improvised with what they had. For the preparation, you'd mix up the dough and make it into little rings or balls depending on your preference, and fry in oil until golden brown. The results were immaculate. But if you've never fired donuts, don't expect this to be easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You have to be careful because that oil will fool you. You think you're the one in charge, setting the stove temperatures and being all fancy. But once that oil is hot, there's no telling if you are frying or burning those donuts. So be careful, because donuts are no joke.
Introduced in 1963, Sunny Delight positioned itself as a healthier alternative to sodas by offering a vitamin-enriched, citrus-flavored beverage that quickly captured the market's attention. Its bright color and sweet taste made it a hit among children, while its marketing campaigns emphasized a fun and active lifestyle, integrating Sunny D into scenes of youthful energy and outdoor activities. Despite its success, the brand encountered criticism for its high sugar content and low percentage of real juice, prompting several reformulations to increase authenticity and align with healthier consumer preferences. These changes allowed Sunny D to update its image and product offerings to better meet the expectations of modern consumers looking for healthier drink options.
Today, we're going to be diving into one of the most unexpected combinations from an old-school kitchen. Yup, fried apples and onions. Those sweet, tender apples and savory caramelized onions make for a much better meal than you would originally think. As they sizzle together in a skillet covered with buttery richness, the dish becomes the peak of comfort food when times are hard and you don't have much in the pantry. This dish is actually something that goes back all the way to the 19th century, specifically in the Appalachian and southern regions, where it was very common in kitchens to make the most of whatever was available. Apples were something that was plentiful and onions were dirt cheap, so the combination made all the sense in the world when you looked at it from your wallet's point of view. I wish these were the sweet kind of muffins, but unfortunately they're not. We are going to get to know one of the breakfast staples of the Great Depression era, carrot muffins. Some might say that this was a sweet way to sneak some veggies to the table. With butter and sugar in short supply, people used the natural sweetness of carrots to help flavor their muffins, creating a sweet and moist breakfast without breaking the bank. Now, I get that carrots have a sweet taste to them, but I wouldn't call this meal sweet unless someone added some sugar to it. Not much, just a little would be enough. These muffins were also super versatile. If you had some cinnamon or nutmeg, you could spice them up. Or if you had some raisins or nuts, you could throw them in too for some extra flavor. They were an affordable, filling option that got people through hard times and got some vegetables into kids' mouths and bellies. Not a total parenting waste, don't you think? Just kidding, it was an epic parenting victory. Any veggies that somehow get into kids' hands is a win-win situation. Eggless pancakes. So the first time you hear that, you just automatically think that there's no real reason why these should exist because what's next? Brickless buildings? But really, eggless pancakes have been around for far longer than you would think. This is especially true for lean periods like the Great Depression or wartime rationing in the 1940s, and a lot of eggs back then were actually decently more expensive than people could afford, or they just weren't available because somebody who could afford them likely scooped most of them up. COVID-era bulk buying wasn't really an isolated event, I guess. Most recipes would essentially just rely on baking powder for the fluff and use some kind of oil or milk along with flour. Old-school versions, and I mean proper vintage recipes, would even include mashed bananas, vinegar, and some applesauce, and that's some proper veganism if you ask me. Eggless pancakes have largely faded into the background now, but they were definitely one of the most affordable meals our grandparents grew up with back in the day. Milk and cracker soup. That sounds, weird, to say the least. Milk and cracker soup was a simple, no-frills breakfast born out of necessity. When fresh bread was scarce and cereal was too expensive, people turned to whatever they had in the pantry, often crackers or stale bread, and made them work. The recipe was as basic as it sounds: crumbled crackers or leftover stale bread in a bowl with warm milk poured over them. Sometimes sugar or a sprinkle of cinnamon would be added if available, but more often it was just a pinch of salt. I mean, this dish wasn't going to sweep Gordon Ramsay off his feet or win any culinary awards, but it was quick, easy, and used up those last bits of pantry items that would otherwise go to waste. And that was the important part: keeping the tummies full and staying on budget. Milk and cracker soup wasn't fancy, but it stretched the family food budget, which was the whole point during the Great Depression times. The soft, mushy texture wasn't for everyone, but for families who needed to make a meal out of whatever they had, this dish was a reliable go-to. If even one of these brought a morning back to you, the warm bowl, the sound of the percolator, the toast going soft with butter, then maybe this week is the week to make it again. Pick one. The grits, the French toast, the cinnamon toast, whichever one your hands still remember. None of them takes more than 5 minutes, and not one costs much more than it did back then. We did not eat this way because it was fancy. We ate this way because it was warm and it was ours, fixed half awake before the sun came up. Those mornings shaped us more than we knew. So put the coffee on tomorrow, fix yourself one of these, and sit down with it like you have the time.